Okay, well, good morning again, everybody, and welcome to our first Partner Academy of 2026. As always, some house rules. Everyone is muted during the webinar. There is a Q&A box available in your Teams client. If you have questions, please post them in that Q&A box and not in the chat box. Some of the questions will probably be answered in written through the Q&A box. Some other will be answered live during or at the end of the webinar. Regardless, we will send a follow-up email with all the questions and answers within the coming days after the webinar. Well, as always, a disclaimer that everything that you're about to see is the current status and that we, of course, do not guarantee that this will still be the case tomorrow or the day after tomorrow. Our schedule for today, I will do an intro on the current state of VMware. As you probably are aware, since the acquisition of VMware by Broadcom, a lot of things have changed, both from a partner landscape perspective, but also from a product perspective. And we're going to dive a little bit deeper into that because that's a bit of an intro for the second part that will be given by Stan Marivoet from Veeam on how to keep data safe in a changing virtualization industry. And then my colleague Thierry will do a general Veeam update on the current state of Veeam. So the state of VMware. As you've probably all are aware, VMware by Broadcom has one strategy, and that's being in the driver's seat for the future of private clouds. And how are they going to do that? They're going to do that through VCF, VMware Cloud Foundation. Now, that's of course something that they don't do on a couple of days. It's been a process that's been going on for a couple of years since the acquisition in a few years ago. And some things have already been done and some things are still in an ongoing process. So one of the things they did is, of course, the divestment of non-core assets. For example, the end-user computing part was sold to another company that became Omnisa. The Velo Cloud components were sold to Arista, and so on. The shift from the perpetual licensing model to the subscription-only model. Prior to the acquisition, you could buy a perpetual license, typically combined with a maintenance contract, but that perpetual license gave you the right to use that software indefinitely. Also, after that, the maintenance contract was expired. Now, with the switch to subscription, if your subscription contract ends, you are no longer entitled to use that software. So that's a big shift in how VMware handles licenses. And it has an impact because when your license date has expired, you will notice that your infrastructure loses some functionality. Your virtual machines keep running, but you're no longer able to manage the infrastructure or to manage the virtual machine. So it does have an impact. As I already said, the focus on private cloud through VMware Cloud Foundation. And of course, as we are all aware, Broadcom is mostly interested in those enterprise customers, those larger enterprise customers. Now, we work in Belgium and Luxembourg. We are a typical SMB country, small and medium businesses. So prior to the acquisitions, we had products like, for example, Essentials and Essentials Plus that were typically targeted towards that lower end of the SMB market. Those products have already been long gone. We still have some other products in portfolio, but we clearly see the shift towards those enterprise customers and those solutions that are specifically targeted towards those enterprise customers. And that's, of course, part of the ongoing exercise that Broadcom is doing regarding the portfolio simplification. It is true that prior to the acquisition of VMware by Broadcom, we had thousands of SKUs and that they did an optimization of the number of SKUs that are available or that can be ordered. For example, in private cloud, we only have 4 main SKUs today. Next to private cloud, we also have the application platform, everything related to Kubernetes and containerization based on the Tanzu platform. And of course, the load balancing and advanced security part with AV and vDefend firewall with or without ATP. If you dive a little bit deeper into the VMware Private Cloud part, so we have on the left side VMware Cloud Foundation, their top-level product. We have VMware vSphere Foundation, and then on the right side we have VMware vSphere Enterprise Plus and VMware vSphere Standard. Those two are the entry-level products that still exist today within EMEA, because there are certain parts outside EMEA, well, actually everywhere outside EMEA, where those products are no longer available. Now, what we see is that the two top-level products, VCF and VVF, they made the shift to a new code base, version 9, while vSphere Standard and Enterprise Plus remained at version 8. Now, what's the problem with version 8? Well, version 8 is end of support October 2027. So that's why for those two products, we can no longer create quotes with a validity of more than 1 year, because as it's looking currently, or as it looks today, we will not be able to provide support after that cutoff date in October 2027. Maybe a new product will be launched in the meantime, we don't know, but this is the current state of technology. If we then look after the portfolio simplification to the partner ecosystem reshaping, that's also something that has been going on for a few years. Specifically to the resale partners. Before the acquisition of VMware by Broadcom, we had approximately 150, 160 resale partners in the Benelux region. We had a broad registered partner base, 116 registered partners. We had plus 30 select partners, a few premier, and very few pinnacle partners. On January the 2nd of this year, Broadcom announced a new update of the partner ecosystem, meaning that we are still in a grace period for the moment, but after April the 2nd, this is the landscape we're looking at in Benelux. So only 25 partners remain. And of course, both those changes, once on one side, the portfolio simplification targeting towards those enterprise customers, and the optimization of the partner landscape results in a lot of partners that are currently looking for alternative solutions for VMware. And luckily, Veeam has also followed that path, because Veeam has broadened their support for virtualization and hypervisors since the acquisition of VMware by Broadcom. And that brings me to Stan.
Yeah, if I discover the unmute button, I think it will be all fine. So I'm going to take over. And now, indeed, we indeed done a pretty good job, basically, on the part of the hypervisors. So we added a few of them, indeed. Main focus of today will be indeed the widespread of hypervisors, and call it an accident, I would say. I've picked out just one in order to follow it up and to dive a little bit more into the details of that one. But keep in mind everything that we are looking into now, because basically all hypervisors are popping up like mushrooms out of the ground, just like this. All of them are basically based on KVM. So we got a few steady ones like the Hyper-V, and the Nutanix basically is also underneath a KVM, but all the rest is like default KVM on top with some additional development and features. In the meanwhile, I would say just drop in questions on the Q&A. I will promote Marnix and Thierry as a guidance, or either halting me and asking the question out loud, or just summarize them for the end. I did some specific Q&A parts in the meanwhile. Now, basically, we always jump into Veeam data platform. So that's the baseline. And I always make a little joke on this slide, because we are pretty good in doing things that we told in the beginning we would never do. Yeah. The best example is basically tape. Yeah. We were always saying from the beginning of the existence of Veeam, we will never do tape. Well, guess what? We do tape. Huh? We always said we will never support another hypervisor. Guess what? We support a lot of them in the meanwhile. And that's the same thing that is going on for the MySQL, for the Mongo, for the DB2. Even DB2 was added, AIX, and all other legacy systems as well. So we're pretty good in doing things that we originally promised not to do. And on top of that, it also shows that Veeam is not the small, easy Veeam that is easy to manage. No, we are getting like a huge product. And we are also, we can handle those enterprise markets because we manage them all. We can define a complete data center with backups in the meanwhile. So that's also something important. And I think also on the cloud part, we've done quite a nice job, and I think Thierry is going to dive a little bit more in there as well. Just a sneak peek for the end of my presentation, there will be some roadmap in there. So stay tuned until the end, I would say. Now, what happened? So I got a timeline. It's a homemade timeline, and while we saw that basically Veeam was growing along together with Broadcom slash VMware. So we added in the early days, we added the ESXi support. We were the first in class, I would say, from the backup vendors that were able to manage backups without installing annoying agents. Yeah, because agents need to be maintained. Agents, whenever you do an update, you need to update them as well. So it's not really handy, I would say. We added afterwards because a lot of people were asking on Hyper-V, because Hyper-V was also ramping up, but was going down quite fast. So we added actually Hyper-V in at a certain point in time. And you see like a huge gap in between. But from then on, we heard a lot of that cloud-first strategy going on. Cloud-first, everything needed to go to the cloud. And I can promise you, all those companies that went completely copy-paste, lift-shift to the cloud, they came back pretty quickly because it was kind of expensive to do everything as it was on-prem in the cloud. So keep in mind for cloud focus as well, cloud-first strategy is a good strategy if you select the workloads that you do not want to do on-prem anymore, simply because they are they cost too much. And nowadays with the disks and the chips, it can cost a lot to do things on-prem, or they just moved partial workloads that they simply do not have the competences to manage them on-prem. And those type of cloud consumption, we see them growing as, again, mushrooms popping out of the ground. We added Nutanix, and I must say the first part of Nutanix support was like really a baseline. It was just backing up and restoring. That was it. In the meanwhile, we are basically completely aligned with more or less all competitors on the Nutanix part, even those that really focus on a niche part of Nutanix. So Nutanix also is a perfect, I would say, alternative on the Broadcom VMware part. And I think if I looked at the attendees, there are a few of them supporting them as well. We added more cloud integration, and then it goes faster and faster. And you see on the timeline as well, more actions are taking time in the shortest time frame. So we started to speed up on development as well. We added in over here the Red Hat hypervisors. And that Red Hat hypervisor, funny story aside, we added in that support. We are pretty proud to finally support one KVM-based hypervisor. So we jumped into that one. And 2 weeks later, Red Hat announced we will stop the development of this hypervisor. But that was before the Broadcom takeover, I would say. Afterwards, they picked it up again, and well, basically everything moved over to OpenShift, and all the functionality was for them basically copy-paste for a big chunk. We added more hypervisors, Oracle Linux, we added Proxmox as well, and there are quite a few partners focusing on the Proxmox part, but also quite a few clients, because I'm mainly in contact with the clients, not necessarily with the partners, but a lot of clients are looking into Proxmox as a valid alternative. Now, you have to keep in mind Proxmox exists since a very long time already. So you have to compare feature set with a long history compared to new hypervisors that already have more or less the same feature set. We are going to add a skill was added in the meanwhile. We invented a new feature, and this is kind of groundbreaking. That's why I specifically added on it instant VM recovery to Azure. It's new in version 13, and it's quite nifty because basically what you do is mount backup storage, suggest a hypervisor to use it, just like the instant VM recovery on-prem to Hyper-V, Nutanix, and the VMware, but now in the cloud. So cloud is becoming actually a good alternative for a disaster recovery plan because you can really instantly boot those last critical workloads. And official documentation states you can do that for up to 50 virtual machines. Well, non-official statement, I would say you can go far beyond that part. And as last, we added in HPE VME. It came live, I think, last week. And so it's fully supported now. The clients that were really waiting on it, they received a message from my behalf and they said like, yes, finally, you can download it and fully use it in production now. And they were pretty happy. And that brings me to this kind of a summary. A summary that is like full VM recovery. So if you have, for instance, today a virtual machine on vSphere and you're going to restore it into Hyper-V, you see that the disks are not the same type of disks. The network is not the same type of network. What we as Veeam do, we take out that machine, we convert the disks, we convert the networking cards, and we map them to the current environment. Meaning VMware Network 1 is becoming Hyper-V Network 17, for instance. We do the same thing for cloud, we do the same from physical machines to virtual machines, and so on and so on. And that brings you to this kind of matrix. And as you can see, it's fully compatible. The only thing, and that's perhaps nice to know, if you're playing along or with a client playing along with a migration, there are always native tools to migrate virtual machines. Use those because they will guarantee actually the smallest downtime. If it's not working, feel free to use Veeam and do a backup in the old environment and a restore in the new environment. It will have more downtime because you need to process that last backup and then restore it. But nevertheless, it works pretty good. And actually, I heard it works really good. So it's giving you the complete flexibility of the complete suite. Now I'm going to deep dive, well, not really deep, but I'm going to dive a little bit into the HPE part. And for me, the HPE part, it turns out pretty good. Why? Because if you take a look at a complete picture of Veeam, this is like a complete data center. So you see hypervisor in big, that's like the main data center, and hypervisor in small, that's like the small data center, or a secondary data center on the other side of the parking lot or in a rented space or whatever. You see the Veeam components in the middle, and then at the right side, you see object storage and secondary storage, I would say, like tape. HPE has some hardware available as well. They're pretty good in that. So you can see a lot of storage. We can play along with that storage. I know they can take snapshots on the storage level, but we can trigger them as well. We can play along and pick in on those storage synchronization with Orchestrator. So it's becoming really like a good integration. Everything by far, if possible, immutability is for me key. If you can do that from scratch to the latest restore point, do it as much as possible. We can play along with CDP, we can play along with replicate and restore activities. But all those proxies, they require compute. I know compute is not so easy to get nowadays, but they have quite some good pizza boxes for it. And for the repository, for a small client, this pizza box will still do. Just add a few disks and it will do as a repository. You can make it completely Linux hardened. You just download the ISO. If it needs to be a big one, then go for a big one. They have plenty of them. Immutability, key. Dedupe device. They have a dedupe device for the secondary storage. Perfect. They have tape. And guess what? They still have links to Artesca and Scality. So the big ring component. Or, and I didn't point it out loud, also the part of Vault is a perfect alternative. Yeah? Vault can be used in Veeam for the object storage as a secondary copy. It's all about choice. And I know this is becoming perhaps a lame joke for some of you, but choice in meanings of Morpheus is getting like the blue pill or the red pill. And if you're jumping into the hypervisor VME, then you can really see like you can either choose to run still on the default, I would say, hypervisors, or you choose the HPE hypervisors. Not going to deep dive too much into the techniques. I also foreseen a small demo to walk around in the GUI, because I like the GUI as well. It looks like a VMware, but it's not. It changes some things, but not completely. Yeah. The cost is actually quite fine, I would say. Yeah. Indeed, they took it over, Morpheus, and they started developing on it. It's perhaps not full feature mapping, but yeah, basically on the price level, I would say you can live with that. I will show the demo later on. The main challenges of a lot of my clients were basically, Stan, I need to back up my environment. And how can Veeam help me at the moment? Until last week, we could only say like, okay, sorry, you need to install all agents on the virtual machines. You need to start managing agents. And that's not fun. It's a lot of work. So in this case, what we did is actually we developed on a KVM-based actually hypervisor, the tool of backing up and restoring. Now we did a pretty good job. You can also you see over here the application explorers. Yes, they are available, but at this point in time, I did not see the application awareness backing up. Now, application awareness on backup on a database, it's kind of important. Nevertheless, we have the plugins, so you can still play with that. However, not a lot of people nowadays have Active Directory on-prem, SharePoint on-prem, Exchange on-prem, and so on. So it is what it is, I would say. Yeah? Everything works with a plugin. Yeah, so the plugin is kind of easy to get. You just downloaded it from our website. It's on the release versions as well, and you just downloaded it, added to the VBR, both on Windows or in Linux, and it's becoming workable. Basically, you simply need to add this hypervisor, just like you did with VMware or with the Nutanix or something else. Yeah? The only thing that what is different, if I look and compare a little bit with the VMware part, is that we don't work with proxies anymore. Yeah, everything is based on workers. Why? Because most of the KVM-based hypervisors, they work in a typical. Now it's up to me to find a word. I lost it. I'll search for it. I'll come back to that later. But most of them work in clusters. Like you have multiple clusters, multiple machines in a shared environment, I would say. CPU is shared with the memory as well, with the disks as well. And so they're bundled all together. You don't work usually, you don't work with a dedicated SAN and computer memory separated. Yeah. So we are working with workers, and the workers are automatically being deployed on the clusters. Yeah? At least one worker per cluster, or we don't have like the little guy on the cluster working for it. It's a Linux-based appliance, so it's built in. You can just do click right deploy worker. And basically on the first installation, so after the plugin was being added, both for the Nutanix, both for Morpheus, both for other hypervisors, we will detect, oops, there are no workers at this point in time. Can I add a worker? So Veeam is going to deploy at least one worker in your environment to get the know-how over there. And then afterwards, the inventorying is taking place. So it's scanning basically the environment, what it can get. So you see over here, this is just an example. The Morpheus plugin was being added on this server. And basically you can add it as now click and then add the credentials, the required credentials to get access onto the hypervisor, just as it does on the Proxmox part. Little jump into the workers. Well, how does it look like? Basically, it looks like this. You just add a worker, just like we added like in the early days, I would say a NAS proxy or a dedicated proxy on VMware. And how does it work? Well, no surprises over there. So no rocket science, I would say. You just have the backup server. There is somewhere, and the backup server can be virtual as well. I have no issue with that one. You have the hypervisor. In this case, it's VME. And you have a proxy going to work on that cluster. Yeah, this one is going to mount the virtual machine's disks and is going to back it up to the target. Now the target, by all means, please use a hardened repository at least, or at least some hardware where you can tag on immutability. We have in the meanwhile so many clients that came back to us very grateful, saying thank you for pointing this out in the conversation. Immutability is key indeed, because the complete environment was being encrypted and the backups could not be touched, so we were able to restore it. Now, what is the biggest benefit of a VME? Well, basically, it came out with the change block tracking feature. We were pretty good in doing that on VMware and also on this one, on VME. What is the biggest difference? Like if you have like a virtual machine, example given, 1 terabyte, and some changes take place over the day because it's a working physical machine, then afterwards, normally, if you don't support change block tracking, it means Veeam needs to scan, or any backup appliance needs to scan every bit and byte on the server manually until it's crossed over that 1 terabyte every day. In this case, change block tracking, for the people that do not know that or think it's something obvious, it's not something obvious. It's basically us asking to the hypervisor, please give us the blocks that were somewhere being stored that changed. And the hypervisor is going to foresee us with a table and saying like this and that block is being changed on the disk. You need to back up only those changes. So instead of crossing over 1 terabyte completely, we just do a few megabytes and done. If you have a highly changing machine, then it can be interesting to have multiple fulls, like crossing it over, nevertheless, completely. But that's another topic, I would say, for another partner academy, I would say. It's what makes Veeam in this case so special, and that's something that Marnik said as well in the beginning. We added a lot of hypervisors, but by doing that, we also kept our own structure inside. Inside, it's just a Veeam backup file, VBK, VIB for the increments, and that file is just hypervisor agnostic, I would say. We will go even a little bit more further on that part, on the hypervisor agnostic. I will tell you in the future, so in the foreseeable future, not like within in 10 years or something, but in the foreseeable future, we will not add any hypervisors anymore. We will just publish our obligated APIs to follow, and we'll ask the hypervisors to implement at least those. So we can talk basically to any hypervisor. And that is being called Universal Hypervisor API, just like we added Universal Storage API. And why is that? Because now there are like 13 subtropical hypervisors knocking on our door, asking, can you add us in your supported list? No, we cannot keep up with the development. That's basically it. Marnix, I'm going to try, nevertheless, to jump into another screen. So if things are failing massively, tell me. Are we seeing now my screen with a VME, or are we seeing?
You need to toggle it. Yeah. Here
again.
it is, yeah. Now we can see it.
You can see it? Oh, cool. Nice.
Yeah.
Sweet. Okay, so what's happening? This is actually the demo, I would say. This is something that was able to record in the catacombs of HPE in Veeam. And what you see over here, this is basically a VME cluster. Yeah? We added in that cluster, and this is just like a VM, where basically you see on top the tabs, you see there are different hosts, you see there are different virtual machines, network storage, and so on. Yeah? We added in some virtual machines, or basically Eve did the job and actually added a lot of virtual machines on 3 hosts. Now, if we jump into the Veeam console, what you will see is on the backup infrastructure, and I know a few of you attendees are technical persons, you will see over here the VME worker that is being deployed automatically while adding the hypervisor. So I'm not going through that part. Yeah? The worker is ready, so basically we are ready to take a backup from it. Yeah? This is the overview, just like you see over here, Proxmox or a Nutanix cluster or the VMware. You will see just basically the same thing, but then by accident, another hypervisor. Yeah? And that's the golden rule, I would say. Now I'm talking about VME, but basically any hypervisor would fit in this thing. Yeah? We continue to support on KVM-based hypervisors on the same level, on the same way. Yeah? Now, backup job, I'm not going to loop over how to make a backup job. That's not so rocket science, I would say. Something nice to say, nevertheless, and that's something I added as a pop-up just for me as a reminder. Yes, indeed, there was a lot of confusion in the beta version. You can still use a backup job. You can still use a copy job. Basically, that's for the old school rule 3-2-1, yeah, to comply on that one. And no, there is at this point in time not the possibility to make replication work. Yeah? So you cannot replicate a virtual machine on a KVM-based hypervisor to another host. Yeah? Is that coming? I see. I guess that question will pop up in the Q&A. I don't know. Yeah? But I guess it will, because it's highly demanded at this point in time. I even think this is feature number 1 at this point in time. Nevertheless, Proxmox, VME, other kind of hypervisor, doesn't matter. Yeah? So how does a restore look like? Well, a restore on its own is not like rocket science. It's just the source is the same. It's being formatted in a backup file. So I'm now underrating highly my own product. Yeah? And then pushing it back to the same place or another host. Yeah? That's not so rocket science. What I prefer is the restore from a backup that has been taken originally from another hypervisor, moving to something else, I would say. Yeah? So I'll do that as a demo. How does it look like? Well, basically, we have over here a job created initially on VMware. Yeah? On this VMware job, there are some restore points of a virtual machine called NOS. Yeah? We will go into that one and we will jump into restore entire VM to something. Yeah? It doesn't matter where, what, it can be cloud as well. We will take ownership of the conversion of the virtual machine. And that's the power, actually. You, as an administrator, do not need to do anything at all. Huh? The virtual machine, nice. New location, perfect. Yes, it makes sense, of course, because it's absolutely not the VMware cluster anymore. Now, the cluster you need to target, well, basically, we don't fill in the details by ourselves. So if you want to do a massive backup and restore session, well, make sure to point out to the right clusters. Now, the data store is also, it's being scanned in the inventory. We are not going to propose you where to put everything by its own. So you need to pick out basically where. Yeah? And HPE in the catacombs, they have quite some storage available to play along. Yeah? So I had the liberty to choose whatever I wanted. Now, this one is also cool. Huh? VME is also working with tags. You can make backup job based on tags. Yeah? So it's kind of important if you move from one hypervisor to the other to restore the tags and the labels as well. Yeah? Now, there is a small yes, but. On the network, we will not pick out the network by default, because we cannot make the mapping VLAN 10 is the same as something else. For partners that are assisting on clients with a migration track and they pull back to Veeam in order to do a backup and a restore into a new hypervisor, watch out with this one, because you cannot proceed without selecting a network. Meaning, if you keep the machine live in potentially a VMware and you restore it into VME, you have potentially 2 times the same IP in your production environment because after booting the machine. So keep that in mind. You cannot proceed without connecting a network. It's popping up some weird error, and I got the same thing that is going on the it's small bug still remaining on in Veeam. The naming, you cannot name something with underscore, I would say underscore restored. Yeah? It can be dash restored, it can be whatever restored, but not underscore. Don't ask me why. It's under revision as we speak. Yeah? So what did I do? Just not power on the target after the restore, because otherwise you will jump into the double IP. And if you jump into VME now, and we're looking into the cluster again, so jumping into the cluster, we will see some VMs. And basically, if I'm not mistaken, over here, the worker is available. So VME worker 2 has been booted. Yeah? And then afterwards, it will also launch the machine in the background. It will do plenty of operations. So over here in the history tab, you normally, if you scroll down, which I didn't, you will see attaching and detaching volumes, changing the type of disk, and so on and so on. So it's quite nifty, I would say, for a restore, including a conversion. Now, I'm going to swap back Marnix. So behold, we will see what's going to happen now.
In the meantime, I think you already answered the question, Stan, but just to have an official yes, a question from Dieter: is restore from Hyper-V to HPE VME possible?
Yes, why not? Because basically the format in the beginning is, what do I say? In the beginning, the format of the backup format is basically a Veeam native format. It's transportable, also kind of important. Yeah? You can copy paste it anywhere you want, basically. And then you can restore it to the place you want. So either VME, either VMware, either cloud, either something else. It doesn't matter.
And we have another question from Bjorn. What has been the impact on Veeam with Broadcom pushing away partners in terms of business numbers of licenses and so on?
I would say
has Veeam seen a decrease in Veeam sales? I already answered that. We are not seeing it.
No, we don't see any difference, because basically a client is still in a need of doing something. They still need to run their machines, whether or not they're running the machine in a VMware environment, in a Hyper-V environment, going to move to cloud. We don't see the difference, because basically the license of Veeam, and that's a problem as well for us, because we don't see what's happening in the scene behind with a license. It's now being used perhaps in VMware, and tomorrow it has been migrated to VME and partially into Azure. We have no clue. It's the same license that is still being used, but in a different way. And it's, I would say, almost the power of Veeam at that point in time. There is no lock-in. That's the advantage as well.
Okay.
Yeah. Keep the questions coming. So I'm all in, I would say. Something I mentioned, data portability. Yes, you can take a big backup on VMware, I would say, or any hypervisor, basically, on your USB drive, run into a data center of a rented space, and then drop it over there. So perfect. Yeah? Restore to anywhere. Now, this one was kind of a joke, yeah, because nowadays it is live already, but the universal hypervisor, not yet. I have no timing. Yeah. So what we always say, it's ready when it's ready. Don't keep asking me for a date, because we don't know until 2 weeks upfront. Yeah. We had kind of the QA part, and I'm jumping into like the gray area before handing over to Thierry. Yeah. We have something called Veeam Data Cloud as well. Yeah. Veeam Data Cloud, also same platform, something small, but it's growing kind of big nowadays. This is the UI today. Yeah? And I know normally people should be able to raise hands, if I'm not mistaken. Let's see if everybody is still awake. Who likes dark mode or is fan of dark mode, I would say. Okay, we got 1, 2, 3, 4. Got a few. Okay, nice. I never get it. Yeah, I do not understand what's so great about dark mode. White is just fine. I don't work at night, or I prefer not to work at night. Yeah? Dark mode is coming on this UI, and not only the dark mode is coming, they did also a kind of a shift. So partners that actually did the some partners will have noticed that some tools, because we started basically with the M365 alone, it had some airbag controls in it. We had Salesforce being added. It had some airbag controls in it. So all that part has been excluded and is now on one level above. So basically cloud.veeam.com, and over there you will have the tiles. You will rule airbag controls on the top level. So in the beginning, kind of confusing for our clients. And this is how it will or can look like in a very near future. And you see there is one grayed out button. It was already announced, I think, in London by our CEO. You will see, or you will be able to have the capability of managing your on-prem data center from the cloud at a certain point in time. Now, the biggest question is, do you want that? Yeah. Some people will not want this, and some people will want this, because you as a partner will be able to sell at a certain point in time a appliance, a real dedicated appliance. So once again, something we will never do, we promised in the past or said in the past, we will do in the near future. Yeah, this kind of appliance, and I know it's actually basically it's something that is being screwed into a rack. Yeah, and it will allow you to manage it only from the cloud. This appliance is basically managed by the cloud only. And it will be perfect in a first iteration. It will be perfect for a small footprint, but afterwards it will go to bigger sizes as well. And it will really matter. Now there is a hard thing. It's ready when it's ready. So it's not yet. There was foreseen somewhere in March to go live, but it will go it will shift a little bit further in the future. Now, there is a hard requirement. So we always want to force people to be compliant on the 3-2-1 rule. Basically, you can drop your backups on the appliance and then move to cloud, to Vault. And in this case, we will organize the 3-2-1 rule for you. But this will be the required and the obligated way to go. You will manage from the cloud your appliances. So it used to be coming March. I would say it will be very likely Q2, and then the full will not be in June, but I guess somewhere in the second half of the year. And you'll see also the gradient, small size, big size. I guess on that part, it's ready when it's ready. That's like the basic keynote of today, what things can be done for Veeam part. I see there are still some questions or not, or they were all answered already.
There's another question. The backup physical appliance, what is the thinking about cloud-only management? What about data sovereignty for customers who don't want any info data in public data centers?
Makes total sense. Those people just continue to do what they do. We will never enforce people to use that device and manage it through the cloud. People that want to stay on-prem and do not want any data to go out of the data center, they just continue to do what they do. And so you as a partner, you have all the capabilities of making your own appliance. That's something that was basically being told. I think I wrote a blog post about it 4 years ago. By all means, make your own appliance, or just make like Veeam backup and replication, virtual machine, dedicated hardened repository somewhere else. a secondary copy in another data center of the clients or at the partner side. So by all means, please continue to do what you do today. I have pretty secured clients, I would say, without naming one. They are even not connected to the internet. They're like completely offline. So they continue to do whatever they do. And this is just another option, I would say, for the smaller sites, the smaller clients that needs to be managed globally. It would be kind of handy to have this kind of setup for them.
That's it for the moment with regards to questions.
Cool. Then I think, yeah, if there is still a question, I would say drop it in the Q&A section. I'll pick it up afterwards.
Okay, Cherry, I think it's up to you now.
Thank you. Having a little bit of a lag on the system, but I hope it works. Yeah. So welcome from my part. Some general Veeam updates, or things that were announced or by Veeam in the first 2 months or 3 months almost from this year. First thing around partnerships is that Veeam is changing, well, some requirements and some namings. I think most partners will know that there are some VMSP, VMTSP, sales professional, technical sales professional certifications required for the partnership. Well, they are removing the VMTSP and replacing it with the Veeam technical specialist certification, which should be online now in the Veeam University Partner section, let's say, because it's no longer Veeam IQ. The trainings are now for the partners in the Veeam University Partner piece. So it's highly recommended to check if you are compliant, and as the certification will be updated now to the 2026 certifications content, to retake them. Just a screenshot here to point you out. So if you're on the Veeam Pro Partner portal, where it is Veeam University, there are multiple flavors now, or let's say, so Veeam University Partner, the Veeam IQ, previously known as, I would say, but there is also a Pro part, Veeam University Pro, which is a new subscription. It's subscription-based, and it contains all the technical courses that are available previously through the education centers. So they are reshaping also a little bit the certifications. We all know the VMCE certification, the Certified Engineer. This only exists until the end of the month, and will be replaced by a Veeam Certified Engineer Plus exam. The exams still have to be done in an exam center, but with a subscription to the Veeam University Pro, you can simply follow the courses online. So you need to follow the 3 courses here: Veeam Backup Application, Veeam 1, and Veeam Orchestrator course, and then you have all the knowledge, or should have the knowledge, to complete the Veeam Certified Plus exam, which should be available pretty soon, I think, beginning April.
I'll jump on that one. Indeed, the VMC Plus is going to, it's under revision, so it's almost there, I would say. The security expert is like foreseen for later. They're still building the questions. Architect was not yet, because it's a panel review. Basically, you need to know everything and then defend your case basically into a panel. So that's something really hard, I would say. It's a challenge for the partners.
Thank you, Stijn. So yeah, cybersecure focus on the security, and then on a later date, a real architect certification. The nice thing is it's, in my opinion, pretty cheap. So for a partner, there are separate SKUs for partners and for partners who want to resell a subscription to their end customers. For a partner, for only $1,600 you get 4 seats, meaning you get a subscription where 4 system engineers from the partner can follow the courses. And so I think that's a very good deal. For end users, it's a bit more expensive, $899, and just for one person. You can, or you will get afterwards a slide. So there are some QR codes with links to some marketing materials and to the Pro Partner portal for the Veeam University. Veeam has done for the registered partners is that for fiscal year 26, so Veeam's fiscal year, if you buy as a partner a Veeam University Pro subscription, it counts towards your upgrade to Silver. So if you get the subscription, and although you do not match the revenue, because there is a revenue requirement to become Silver partner, just buying the e-learning subscription will revoke, let's say, for this fiscal year, the revenue requirements. So that's a nice extra bonus. Veeam has also updated the Veeam Service Provider Program Guide. Let's say minor changes on the partner program itself. But a nice thing, well, one of the things that they are changing and noticing more is that the partner really can't just resell licenses anymore. Well, or you take it like a resale of licenses. It must be bundled with services. So if you want to use the VCSP model, you really have to add on top of the licenses service from yourself. Some customers really took it like some kind of a resale with monthly payments. That's Veeam will have a look at that more or restrict that more. Some updates around products. Yeah, Veeam announced the buying of security as a company, and it's not yet a product. But in the future it will be something like a product. And what they will do with the Agent Commander is they will protect your AI activities, let's say. So they will be able to scan your environments and know and map which AI agents are running in your environments, what they are doing in your environments. They will be able to detect, I won't say malicious, but they will be noticing what the AI is doing with your data and so on, and you will be able to act on it and also redo or undo things that an AI agent did wrong. So if, let's take a simple example, some AI agent deleted a file, well, Veeam will know it, or the Agent Commander will know it, and you will be able to simply do a restore. And it's a nice thing. The Agent Commander will really know what the agent did, and so you don't have to do a bulk restore or something. They will be able to really just, undo the things really done by the agent. There is also a link to the Pro Partner Toolkit where you already can find a press release and some additional info and facts. But yeah, it's a work in progress product-wise at this moment. Another thing is the availability of Veeam Data Cloud for managed service providers in the VCSP program. So let's say as of now, you can also, as a service provider, you don't have to install the products anymore, but you could also use the Veeam Data Cloud portfolio for offering your services to the customer. At this moment, it's Veeam Data Cloud for Azure, Salesforce, and of course the full Entra IDs and Microsoft 365 suites available. There is some bundling available. So you can still use the standalone products, and it works the same way like the other products in the VCSP program. So it's just a reporting of each product. License metric has a number of points. At the end of the month, you report the points, and that there is a price attached to it. Excuse me. So just the same here with the Veeam Data Cloud, but it's SaaS. It's also a number of points, but it has a different price tag than the install it by yourself products. There is bundling. There is a Microsoft 365 Advanced, which is really the backup for Microsoft 365 and Entra ID. Then the Advanced Plus, where we add on Salesforce. Then the bundle Microsoft 365 Premium, which is adding the Express to the Advanced and Entra ID. The Premium Plus, again, adding the Salesforce to the bundle. The bundles are always in points cheaper than the standalone products. So it's already available. It's not really new. Veeam Service Provider Console version 9.1, mainly adding the Veeam for data platform v13 support, and also the software appliance HA monitoring. That's already available, but have a look at what's coming expected by the end of Q1 is Veeam Service Provider Console 9.2, adding also support for HP VM Essentials normally, and also a centralized management for the Veeam Vault management, so which is also available through the VCSP program. So watch out for that one. Just a link because I could cram everything within this 1 hour session. This is a link to the recorded sessions of the Veeam Launchpad content. So there you can see what Veeam announced, let's say, in the second half of January globally as news. And that's it in a short for what I had on Veeam updates. I don't know if there are additional questions.
No, not that I can see. No. Thanks, Thierry, for the update. With that, we are at the end of our webinar, running 1 or 2 minutes late. Our apologies for that. If there are any more questions that you come up with later today or whenever, please feel free to reach out to any of us, and we will tackle them when we receive them. With that being said, I thank everyone for their attendance, and I wish you all a pleasant remaining of the day.